Miss Lucille Ball.
Got a tiny tin of me.
Miss Lucille Ball. All she wrote was a single warning in her private diary. If I reveal these 6 names, Hollywood will collapse. That one shaky line looked like it came from someone who knew she was holding a truth sharp enough to cut through the whole industry. In that secret notebook, people claimed Lucille had listed 6 men she was never supposed to love. 6 Hollywood giants whose names alone could shake the entire entertainment world to its core. Hidden nights in Beverly Hills, training sessions that turned into quiet sparks, secret handholds behind curtains, and moments so risky they could have ended every career involved. This was the kind of trouble Hollywood pretended didn't exist. Hollywood has always kept secrets, but these were the ones even Hollywood didn't want whispered. So who were the 6 men? Why did they step into Lucille Ball's life? And what pushed the queen of sitcoms to risk her marriage, her perfect reputation, and the trust of millions for connections that could never be spoken out loud? Let's start with the first name. Behind that famous smile was a story nobody expected. 1. Clark Gable, the man who made Lucy's heart trip over itself. Back in 1942, inside the glittering halls of MGM Studios, Lucille Ball, still considered a B-list actress, walked into a costume-fitting room with nerves buzzing like electricity. Rumor had it Clark Gable himself might show up that day. She didn't believe it. He wasn't just a star, he was the king of Hollywood, the kind of man people saw on a screen, not in real life. Then the door swung open out of nowhere. Clark Gable stepped inside, tall, sharp suit, shoulders broad enough to block out half the room, the studio lights catching his hair like it was coated in gold. The room went silent instantly. He didn't speak right away. He just scanned the place slowly before his eyes locked onto Lucy, the redhead sitting quiet in the corner. He walked over with this calm confidence, shook her hand gently, tilted his head with a smile and said, "You don't need makeup. Your eyes already give this whole room enough light." People around them laughed politely, thinking it was just Hollywood charm. But Lucy didn't even hear them. Her heartbeat was pounding so loud she couldn't think straight. Right then, she knew something had shifted. They kept seeing each other at studio cocktail parties, events actors only went to because their agents made them. Clark always arrived with his agent, while Lucy usually came alone. They didn't talk openly. It was glances from across the room, half smiles and accidental touches when reaching for drinks. But Clark's gaze hit different, like he saw the real her, not the performer Hollywood expected. One rainy night after a long taping session, Lucy spotted Clark smoking alone under an awning. He didn't look at her, just asked softly if she wanted to walk together. She nodded. They walked down the long back corridor, the light rain sounding like music behind them, neither saying much. At the exit, Clark slipped his coat over her shoulders without a word, just making sure she wasn't cold. And that simple moment was the start of everything. What followed happened quietly. No fancy declarations, no official dates. People whispered about a room at the Roosevelt Hotel booked under a fake name known only to them. No chocolates, no flowers, just dim yellow lamps, soft jazz, and nights where Lucy didn't have to pretend she was Hollywood's funny girl. She talked about the pressure, the loneliness, the weight of always being seen as the one who made everyone laugh. Clark didn't try to fix anything. He just listened, really listened. With him, she didn't have to perform. She could just be Lucy. Sometimes they didn't even touch. They sat on opposite sides of the bed reading scripts, eating cold sandwiches, sharing silence that felt safer than applause. Those moments felt more real to Lucy than anything she'd lived. Clark never said, "I love you," but the small things said it for him. His hand brushing her back when they left elevators, the way he waited while she tied her shoelaces, or how he watched her sleep for a moment before slipping out quietly. It was unspoken affection, which somehow made it hit even deeper. Lucy knew he wasn't the staying type. Gable didn't belong to anyone. But in those hidden moments, she felt chosen, not for fame, not for looks, but for the vulnerable part of her Hollywood didn't let her show. One day, after Lucy got cut from a major film, she broke down. Clark just told her, "Hollywood needs your laughter, but I want to see you when you're not trying." That meant more to her than any award. No one ever knew the truth. Some people said they were only friends. Some claimed it was all in Lucy's imagination. But in this quiet tale, they cared for each other deeply and briefly. The end came softly. One day, Clark just didn't show up at their usual meeting spot. Lucy waited until late, then walked out into the rain alone. Weeks later, she saw a headline announcing his engagement to another actress. She read it in her dressing room, stared into the mirror, and forced a tiny smile to cover the pain. She never brought him up again. No one asked. She didn't offer. But the Roosevelt Hotel manager later said she kept that secret room booked for another year, even though no one ever checked in. A man may leave, but the impact he leaves behind can reshape someone forever. Clark's gentle strength ended up making Lucy tougher both on screen and off. But destiny wasn't done with her yet, not even close. Because right after Clark faded out of her world, another leading man stepped quietly onto the stage of her life. Cary Grant. 2. Cary Grant, the perfect romance in a room with no mirrors. In the spring of 1940, Life magazine arranged a special photo series called The Faces of Hollywood, gathering the brightest stars of the era. Lucille Ball had just landed an exclusive contract with Columbia Pictures and was invited to be photographed with Cary Grant, fresh off his hit film Arsenic and Old Lace. The shoot took place at Paramount Studios with famous photographer Bob Landry behind the camera. Lucy walked in with her red hair styled in soft waves, wearing a simple white V-neck dress. Cary was already there, standing near an industrial fan, adjusting his collar like he was about to step into a scene from a noir film. When their eyes met, he smiled and said, "Red, it's finally our turn to share a frame." That little nickname, Red, rolled out so smoothly it made Lucy freeze. Not because she was shocked, but because it felt strangely familiar, like they'd already lived another life together. The photo shoot, originally scheduled for 45 minutes, stretched to nearly 2 hours, not because of technical problems, but because the photographer couldn't stop capturing them. Their natural moments were too good to interrupt. Lucille and Cary knew how to fake chemistry, every actor did. But that day, it wasn't acting. Their gazes lingered longer than necessary, their laughs came too fast. Their bodies leaned toward each other without thinking. Everyone in the studio felt the tension, even if no one dared say it out loud. After the shoot, Cary surprised her by asking her to dinner. Not at some fancy place on Wilshire Boulevard, but at an old burger joint at the end of Melrose Avenue, the kind of spot photoplay once called the favorite place of forgotten actors. It was a move that said a lot. He wasn't trying to impress her, he was trying to be real. Lucy's eyes shot wide open in surprise, and Cary just smiled like he'd been waiting for that reaction all night. "Food tastes best when no one is watching you," he said, and for Lucy, the world suddenly felt simple again. They ordered 2 messy, overloaded burgers that dripped onto their hands, slurped sodas through paper straws, and laughed like 2 grown adults who finally remembered how to breathe again. No cameras, no rehearsed lines, just 2 people dropping their masks for the first time in years. From then on, they met the way people do when the world gets too heavy. Not on a schedule, not with a plan, but on nights when both needed to slip off the grid. Their hideout of choice? A quiet room on the 4th floor of the Chateau Marmont, looking out over the Hollywood Hills like a secret balcony into another life. The only rule they both agreed on: no mirrors, not one. Lucy once asked him why. Cary leaned back and said, "We've looked at ourselves enough. Tonight, let's only look at each other." That line hit her so deep she never forgot it. Inside that room, nothing felt fake. There was no superstar glow, no pressure, no pretending. Just Red and Grant, two people carrying invisible scars, finding a calm corner away from the Hollywood noise. Sometimes they sat by the window reading scripts. Lucy would test out sitcom scenes, and Cary laughed so hard he had to wipe his eyes. Other nights, Cary opened up about growing up in Bristol, his complicated home life, and dreaming of hitting the Broadway stage one day. These were stories he never shared in interviews. Only Lucy got to hear them, and she treasured every word. One day, Cary handed her a watch with no numbers, just a blank face and two simple hands. "Because with you, I forget time," he told her. She never wore it. Instead, she kept it tucked in her coat pocket like a secret she didn't want the world touching. During a filming break on My Favorite Husband, Lucy slipped her hand into her pocket and felt that watch. Right then, the director said, "Lucy, I need something more genuine." She didn't say a word. She just thought of Cary, and the next take was spot on perfect on the first try. Their connection wasn't about fame or flashing lights. It felt like a private jazz tune, soft, real, sometimes aching, always honest. But in late 1948, Cary signed on to film To Catch a Thief in Europe, and he'd be gone nearly 8 months. Before he left, he slipped a note under Lucy's pillow. Read, "I've been Cary Grant for too long. It's time to return to the role of my life. But if there is a next lifetime, I hope we get to be ordinary people." No signature, no date. Lucy kept that note in her wallet until her final years, right beside things she couldn't let go of. Their quiet chapter ended as gently as it started. No goodbye scene, no drama, no headlines. But in a 1955 interview with TV Guide, when asked which co-star ever made her truly feel something, Lucy only smiled and said, "A man who made me forget time when I was beside him." After Cary Grant, Lucy never loved that softly again. Every romance after him felt louder, messier, less delicate, because nothing could match what she'd shared with him. It remained a warm, quiet memory she carried like a folded photograph inside her chest. And life never leaves room empty for long. Just when Lucy convinced herself every emotional door was locked, someone else stormed in without knocking, a tall, rugged figure who smelled of cigarettes, leather, and long desert nights. John Wayne. 3. John Wayne, A Rough-Edged Romance of Horses, Heat, and Unspoken Truths. February 1955. The CBS studio lot was louder and rowdier than anyone had seen all year. The reason? John Wayne, America's legendary cowboy, was guest starring on I Love Lucy. The man walked like thunder and talked like gravel, carrying an entire Western film on his shoulders everywhere he went. This episode had outdoor scenes filmed across California, and TV Guide called it a rare handshake between cowboy cinema and television comedy. Lucy wasn't thrilled at first. "Wayne's the kind of man who only understands horses and guns," she told director Jess Oppenheimer. But the second he stepped into rehearsal, tall, carved out of stone, eyes sharp enough to slice through a crowd, the whole room changed. He didn't talk much. He just nodded at everyone. To Lucy, he said one short line, "They say you make America laugh. I want to see if that's true." She shot back instantly. "They say you're good on a horse. I'd like to confirm that too." Their spark wasn't sweet, more like flint on steel. The rehearsal went smooth, but something else rattled Lucy more than the script. A small folded note Wayne slipped into her hand during break. Inside was one messy handwritten line. "I like the way you laugh, but I like the way you frown even more." No one knew how or when things shifted, but within days the cameramen noticed Lucy arriving an hour early and leaving 2 hours after everyone else. Wayne stopped going straight to his hotel too. Instead, he wandered around the lot like he was waiting for someone. One night, a props coordinator swore he saw Wayne leaving Lucy's dressing room close to midnight, shirt slightly undone, eyes looking way too alive for someone who'd just read lines. Desi Arnaz didn't say a thing, but the rehearsal schedule suddenly changed. Lucy and Wayne were kept apart, always working at different hours. On paper, they were just colleagues, but behind closed doors, something deeper was breathing there, something no one dared to label. During a short production break, Lucy disappeared from the studio. 3 days later, she returned sunburned with a faint scratch on her cheek. On her desk was a black and white photo from a ranch in the Mojave Desert. Lucy on horseback, Wayne standing behind her, one hand resting lightly on the reins. She never explained it. No one asked. From that moment on, she started wearing tall leather boots to the studio, and her hair carried this faint scent of burnt wood, the scent of desert campfires and long nights under open skies. They never held hands in public. But at a wrap party, when the lights dimmed and everyone loosened up, Wayne pulled Lucy into a quiet garden corner, leaned in close, and whispered something only she heard. A Hollywood reporter later said, "I couldn't hear what he told her, but I saw Lucy's hand tremble. She smiled, not the smile she used for an audience." Their connection came without promises. Wayne wasn't a man who lived by them, and Lucy wasn't someone who asked for them. They met when they needed each other, slipping away from Hollywood whenever they could. A dusty wooden bar in Ventura, a hidden creek in Big Bear Forest, or sometimes just sitting in a parked car outside CBS talking about silence. Wayne once told her, "You can make millions laugh, but no one knows what you want." Lucy didn't answer, but days later she handed him an instrumental piece she'd composed titled "Laughing for Myself." At the end of 1956, Wayne signed on for the Wings of Eagles, filming across Florida and Hawaii. He'd be gone more than 8 months. The night before leaving, he invited Lucy to his place in Newport Beach. No drinks, no bonfire, just a rocking chair and a letter he placed in her hand. "If I don't come back, tell someone that you were once the reason a cowboy wanted to give up his horse." She didn't read it right away. She tucked it into her purse next to Cary Grant's numberless watch and a faded Roosevelt Hotel keycard, pieces of past lives she still carried. Wayne left and eventually returned, but not as the same man. The film boosted his fame even higher, while Lucy was rising too with the Lucy Daisy Comedy Hour, a show that ate up all her free nights. Rumor had it Wayne once proposed during a stormy night in the Mojave. Lucy supposedly told him, "I belong on a stage, not in a stable." No one confirmed it. No one denied it. But everyone noticed one thing. During the 1960 Emmy Awards, when Lucy walked on stage to accept her award, she wore a silver necklace shaped like a horse's head. After Wayne, nobody ever loved Lucy with that same wild, reckless fire again. Maybe she didn't let herself fall into anything without a way out anymore. But fate wasn't done messing with her heart, because another man stepped in, smooth, unpredictable, and capable of making her laugh even when she felt cracked on the inside. Dean Martin, the only man who made her bend her own rules and let love and laughter exist in the same breath. 4. Dean Martin, the man who made Lucy break her rules and laugh while loving. June 1958. Backstage at NBC's 10th anniversary gala, Hollywood looked like it had dipped itself in diamonds. Lucy had just wrapped a stressful taping of the Lucy Daisy Comedy Hour, while Dean Martin had stepped off stage with a glass of wine in hand, leaning like life didn't require perfect posture. Meanwhile, Lucy, the queen of laughs, sat alone in a dim corner, mascara smudged, tears drying on her cheeks after Desi had walked out from a quiet but razor-sharp argument. Dean, dressed in a tux with half the buttons undone, strolled over, set his glass on the makeup table, and said in that smooth mix of playful and serious, "A woman who cries beautifully is a woman I'd like to take home." Lucy let out a startled laugh, not because the line was clever, but because it was exactly Dean Martin energy. No sympathy, no judgment, just a sentence that stuck to your ribs. From that moment, they started something nobody could label, not romance, not a fling, not plain friendship. Lucy later described it in a 1965 TV Times interview as a connection without conditions. They didn't plan, didn't promise, just met when both needed to escape the characters life forced them to play. Dean showed her places where Hollywood rarely stepped foot, like a small Italian bar tucked at the bottom of Silver Lake Hill. That's where he taught her how to drink wine right, not rushing it, not gulping it, but letting it glide across the tongue like a soft jazz tune. Lucy taught Dean how to sharpen his sitcom timing, how to land a punchline without forcing it, how to make laughter feel natural instead of staged. Both carried fame like a heavy coat, but with each other they could drop it for a few hours. Once, sitting on the Beverly Wilshire balcony, Dean looked over and told her, "I don't need you to love me. I just need you to let me stay here for a while." Lucy didn't answer. She just refilled his glass. Another night, after drinking too much in Dean's Palm Springs home, they sang Volare off-key together. Lucy missed every beat, and Dean laughed so hard he almost fell out of his chair. When she asked, "How are you always so cheerful?" he answered with surprising honesty, "Because I never believe life is meant to be taken seriously." For Lucy, Dean wasn't a fantasy lover. He was like the dusty attic in a house full of memories, a place you sneak into to breathe, laugh, or cry without anyone watching. She didn't demand anything from him. He didn't promise anything in return. Some weeks they didn't see each other at all. Then out of nowhere, they'd show up on each other's live shows like no time had passed. In 1959, when rumors of Lucy and Desi's divorce hit the Los Angeles Examiner, Dean called her and simply said, "If you don't know where to go, you can always come here. There's no script." That night, she actually went. They didn't even talk, just turned on the TV, watched old Colgate Comedy Hour episodes, and laughed like two friends who didn't need wine to feel loose. Their connection didn't last long. Both knew they weren't meant to belong to each other. Dean loved his freedom the same way he loved Italian wine, and Lucy loved her craft too much to ever walk away from the spotlight. Strangely, neither blamed the other. Once, Lucy told him, "We weren't born to be husband and wife." Dean nodded and replied, "But enough to be lovers without regret." When Dean remarried in 1962, Lucy mailed him a small envelope containing only the handkerchief she had used to wipe her tears at that gala, along with a note that read, "Thank you for giving me a reason to smile, even when I was breaking." After Dean Martin, Lucy never gave her heart away without calculating the risk. Every relationship became measured, selective, cautious. But every time she took a sip of wine and whispered, "Volare," under her breath, she remembered him. And just when she thought her heart had locked its doors for good, she ran into a man who had once flickered in her early years. A man who kept his distance, but had eyes that seemed to understand every secret she held. Henry Fonda. 5. Henry Fonda, the man who made Lucy feel truly heard. Back in 1930, inside a small audition room at RKO Pictures, a young Lucille Ball, barely in her 20s, clutched a script and read her lines with a slightly hurried voice, trying hard to hide her nerves. Across from her stood a tall, slim young man with brown hair and a calm, unassuming face. It was Henry Fonda, another newcomer trying to carve out a place in Hollywood. Lucy smiled first to break the tension, but Henry didn't smile back. He simply nodded gently and lowered his gaze to the page like he was reading something far more serious than a script. Nobody got cast that day, but Lucy never forgot the way he looked at her without judgment or expectation, just quiet understanding. 10 years later, they ran into each other again, not on a set, but at a Beverly Hills charity gala in 1945. By then, Lucy was becoming a household name, and Henry had already been Oscar-nominated for The Grapes of Wrath. But when their eyes met, none of the fame mattered. They were just two people who used to be young, nervous, and still a little lonely inside. Henry approached her with a drink in his hand and said softly, "I remembered you for 10 years without seeing you." Lucy froze, unsure whether it was the words or the way he looked at her. Exactly the same way he had in that tiny audition room long ago, like the rest of the world had blurred out. After that, they began something peaceful and unflashy. No Beverly Hills hotel suites, no paparazzi, no red carpet moments together. Instead, they exchanged handwritten letters through private assistants, blue ink, soft words, sometimes a little pressed flower inside the envelope. Lucy wrote to Henry about the pressure of weekly sitcom shooting, the exhaustion of having to smile even when she felt broken. Henry wrote about his fear of war, about roles that made him feel small once he was back home. They didn't complain, they listened. And in noisy Hollywood, that was rare and priceless. Sometimes they met in Palm Springs, where nobody cared about two people renting a small room, eating dinner quietly, and reading the same book. Lucy had never seen anyone read like Henry, slow, thoughtful, absorbing each word as if it mattered. He didn't touch her often, but when their eyes met, she felt seen, not for her face or her fame, but for her inside self. Once, while sitting together on a wooden porch, Lucy whispered, "I'm not used to silence." Henry smiled softly and replied, "That's why I like you. Not because you talk, but because when you are quiet, the world changes." Their connection never carried a real title. It wasn't traditional love, and it wasn't simple friendship either. It was more like a quiet presence that showed up exactly when life felt too tight to breathe. In 1952, when Lucy became pregnant with her second child, Desi Jr., she cut off every line between herself and Henry. No long explanation, no last conversation, no emotional goodbye. Just one final envelope holding a black and white photo of him taken from a distance on a film set, with a short note tucked inside, "It's time for me to hear my own child cry." Henry didn't argue, didn't question, didn't send some dramatic reply. Instead, he mailed back a copy of Walt Whitman with a small note inside that read, "Every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you." Lucy kept that book on her bedside table until the end of her life. They never met again, except once, in 1960, when both happened to attend the Golden Globes. When Lucy walked on stage to accept her award for Best Comedy Actress, their eyes met across the crowd. She gave a small nod. He returned it, nothing more, nothing less. But in that silent glance lived an entire story. Some whispered that if Lucy hadn't married Desi and Henry hadn't been tangled in 4 marriages of his own, they might have become Hollywood's most peaceful couple. Maybe it was good they met at the wrong time, because that meant they never hurt each other. And just when everything seemed locked into memory, another figure swept into her life. Not quiet like Henry, not joyful like Dean, not wild like Wayne, but bright and chaotic, like a storm rearranging itself in real time. Orson Welles, the only man who made Lucy feel the urge to love someone and run from them at the same time. 6. Orson Welles, a strange, brilliant spark between two people no one could ever fully decode. In the mid-1940s, when Hollywood worshipped the glow of movie screens, another world lived in the shadows, radio, where voices mattered more than faces, and listeners painted entire universes in their minds. Lucille Ball wasn't a comedy icon yet. She was still fighting for space in an industry that tried to push her into one box after another. Orson Welles, on the other hand, was already the young genius who shook the whole nation with War of the Worlds. They first met at the CBS Radio Theater in 1943. Lucy had been invited to read for a short drama, and Orson was directing. When she stepped into the dim studio, he was sitting backward in a chair, cigarette burning low, flipping a lighter open and closed without looking up. He didn't greet her, didn't adjust his posture. He just said, "Give me a line that doesn't sound like Lucille Ball." Lucy let out a laugh, then read a slow, somber passage without jokes or bright energy. When she finished, Orson stayed quiet for a long moment before finally saying, "All right, you're not Lucy anymore. You're someone I can listen to at midnight." After that, the two of them worked together on radio shows, reading sessions, and half-written scripts that never made it on air. But their strange rule was this: they only met at night. Always after 10 p.m., once the building emptied, once the lights dimmed, once Orson had left whatever bar he wandered through, and Lucy, according to his teasing, had taken off her comedy mask and turned into a real person. They didn't talk about their careers the usual way. They talked about unfinished ideas, quiet failures no one else heard, odd dreams, and the kind of sadness people hide behind loud success. One night, after a late reading, Lucy turned to him and asked, "Do you think I'm a sad person?" Orson stared at her for a long time before saying, "I don't want you to laugh anymore. I want you to breathe out your real sorrow." To anyone else, that line would have sounded strange, maybe even harsh. But to Lucy, it was one of the most romantic things she'd ever heard. Their connection was unlike any affair she'd ever had. No hand-holding, no kisses, just a strange, delicate closeness. Far enough not to claim each other, close enough never to fully let go. Some nights Lucy called Orson just to read him Shakespeare passages she was practicing. He'd listen quietly, then say things like, "What do you think would have happened if Juliet survived?" Lucy answered softly, "She would never love anyone again."